Welcome. Monday night. Mosh is live. Is happening right now. Welcome back. Another week, another episode. This week, today specifically, was a little bit hectic. We have some sickness in the house, as well as I started today a supplementary job, secondary job, another job. Now I have two jobs, and I have this, and I do the game stream, and I have a family. I am a busy dude. As we start off every Mosh is Live, every Monday night, what beer are we drinking tonight? I tried to remember it when I went upstairs and poured it into my glass. I have forgotten it since I walked down the stairs, literally. It's called Stone something. Stone Inevitable Adventure Double IPA. Ooh, and it's good. Anyways, by the way, I think, oh no, that's Fatheads, I guess. If you're in Ohio, I don't think Fatheads is sold anyplace outside of Ohio. Fatheads has seasonal on right now called Hop Juju. Go buy as much as you can. It's so good. We usually start off talking about the stream. Let's do that. You'll notice we're still in the newsroom. We're still here. That's okay. That's all right. A little bit of delay with the construction, a little bit of delay with some plans, some requirements. That's getting updated. It will be fixed soon. As I say every week, so I'm hesitant to say it again, next week for sure we'll be ready. We'll be in the new studio. And as I was just talking to one of the designer today, maybe changing one of the layouts. It may become less of a newsroom, more like a news show, with more kind of overlay interaction stuff than just a static kind of newsroom. That is coming. Hopefully next week we'll see what happens. The PTI stuff is coming still. I was actually at dinner with my son tonight and was watching PTI while we were eating, and it pushed me more in that direction. Like, I think I want the main show to be in that vein, to be in the vein of a list of topics, as I have now. My list of topics is written down on a note card. A list of topics here, and then we'll sort of walk through them, discuss them. When we have a guest, we split the screen. It'll be interesting. It's coming. I'm saying next week. That's my goal. Some more stream news. The intro video is close. I've seen updates for it as early or as recent as last night, and it looks dope. It's going to be awesome. The doc is going to be jealous. No, it's very good though, and the artist has just been amazing and very very open communication back and forth between things that need to change, things we like and dislike, and things to tweak. It's been great. And once that video is done, obviously I will promote him in the channel as we go. Anyone looking for work to be done, he is the best. Times this week. So, I mentioned at the open of the show that there's some new stuff going on in my life with this secondary work that I'm doing. So, that secondary work will take over the morning stream. I know we're all disappointed. Previously, for the last couple weeks, I've been doing a morning stream 2 days a week at the minimum. It's supposed to be Tuesday and Thursday every morning at like 9 a.m. until about noon. This new job, I think, is going to replace that. So, it's going to become Tuesday and Thursday. We'll just get pushed back to the regular evening stream. No big deal. I'll still be on every night, 9 to midnight. 8:30-ish, probably to 12:30-ish, 1 o'clock is what it usually ends up being. But officially, it's 9 until midnight. That is until we get, things flowing. Then we'll see how the times change from there. But anyways, for this week, that's certainly what it'll be. We'll see what it is in the future. As I'm still sort of testing the ground with this work, seeing how long it's going to take me to do it. So, for now, cancel the morning stream, at least for this week. Next week, we'll know more. I may have an update next week on the news show. We'll see. But for now, only at night, 9 p.m. to midnight. The first thing I want to talk about, the thing I have been talking about for freaking months. No, not months. At least a month. The PUBG roadmap has been released. I can't even believe it. Finally. Or no, I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about that first. That's PTI. Let's do. Yeah, I already talked about PTI. Let's do the PUBG release. So this, it's been months in the making. We're talking about these guys have disappeared behind the cloak of, oh, we're trying to eliminate cheaters. We're trying to code out cheaters of the game, which they've done a fine job, but it's also lagged down everyone. There was a huge lag spike this week. It's been terrible. Either way, Bluehole released the roadmap for PUBG, and guess what? The starring role was. Guess what it was? Emotes. Who the fuck wants emotes? First thing I see then, the biggest, like, they have a list of all the things they're going to do, all the new updates coming, and what they're focusing on. Actually, the very first one, and I wish I had a picture of it, I chose this picture instead. The very first one was a picture of, it was a picture of, like, a brick building, like a farmhouse you see in the game. And it was like, it had a label before on it, and then a label after on it was like another version of the same shack. And it's like, this is what it looks like before, and this is what it looks like after the visual tweaks or renovations they're doing. The after version looked worse. Damn it, I wish I should have gotten that picture. It looked worse than the before. So I don't know if that was a joke or if there's, you know, I'm not a graphical person. I'm not an artist, obviously. This is why you see the newsroom usually here. But it was like, maybe I don't understand the lighting techniques or the texture features or something. I feel like there's something I'm missing out of that, because I'm looking at the before thinking, wow, that looks really good. It doesn't look that good in the game. And then the after is like, okay, that is muddy enough to look like what's in the game. So I couldn't really tell. Maybe it was an early April Fool's joke. I'm not sure. Anyways, that's what they led with. They're gonna tweak this visual things and make it look prettier, basically. The second thing they had on there, this huge write-up for it, was the freaking emotes. So they're gonna have a new emote wheel where you're gonna be able to wave hi or bye or thumbs up or whatever emote. Okay, I've talked on this show before about the difference between PUBG and Fortnite. Okay, I know those are the two biggest games right now, pretty much. I mean, on Twitch it's usually League of Legends, but the second, number 2 and number 3 are usually PUBG and Fortnite. PUBG is basically, I'm not knocking PUBG. It looks fine. It looks fun. I've tried it a little bit. It's just not for me. It's a little too kind of cartoony. I hope that's not insulting for any Fortnite players, but it's cartoony. It's more cartoony than PUBG. Granted, that could mean that it runs a little more fluid than PUBG. Granted, PUBG is probably one of the worst running games that exist. But PUBG has a lot of emotes to their characters. You see them all the time on I mean, I see them on Instagram on different game accounts doing emotes when they win, or doing emotes, you know, just in the loading screen or whatever it is. You can do these emotes, and they look funny to look at. I don't know about doing them in game. PUBG is not really the place for this, in my opinion. PUBG is, in my purview, is the more serious of the two games. You can argue that it's worse of the two games. If you're a fan of Fortnite, that's fine. You can definitely have a case to argue that it runs worse than Fortnite. That is for sure, optimization-wise. But it's pretty clear that PUBG is trying to be the more focused, the more, I know it's a joke to say, but the esports ready type game, the more technical skill in terms of aiming and strategy and things like that. And Fortnite to me seems more like the fun. Let's get together, have, you know, with some friends and just have some fun in like kind of a cartoony land, which I get it. I get the draw of that, by the way. I don't know why we're focusing on emotes. I don't know why that's a thing. Why? Who cares about emotes? Anyways, the roadmap goes on. They talk about some cool stuff. They talk about new maps, which is fun. However, one of the maps they talk about that's going to be going on the test server is a 4x4 map. So if you play PUBG, you know that the maps are freaking enormous. They're divided up into quadrants. If you look at the map, it looks like a grid. And there's, I'm not even sure, like 16 by 16 maybe air angle or 12 by 12, maybe? I'm not totally sure. Either way, it's huge. They're talking about making a map that's 4 by 4 and having it on the test server. And it sounds like they're trying to test it. And I feel like I also saw on the roadmap, although I just looked again, didn't see the exact phrasing on there. But I thought they were talking about bringing like an 8 by 8 to live or a 5 by 5 to live. Like, that seems nuts. You're talking about a game ending in like 1 minute, you know, or 5 minutes versus 45 minutes. That sounds crazy. So we'll see if that actually gets pushed over. That seems like a whole different game mode that I don't know how it fits really. It might be cool. It might be like for Counter-Strike players that are watching, if you remember FI Ice World. It used to be one of my favorite maps because it was such a cool break from the usual, like, hey, we're in Cal M or whatever, oh, I don't remember the letter scheme exactly, but in some esports thing, we're having practices and scrimmages and different maps, and we're doing these exact things, and then everyone just relaxes with Ice World, where it's like you spawn, grab a gun, and just kill everything. PUBG is a little bit like that, except you have to, like, run and find guns, and it's a little more complicated, but in a 4x4 map, like, how many buildings can you have there? Like, guns are just going to be laying on the ground. It might be cool for like just a break, you know what I mean? A break from the usual strat and kind of slog through finding weapons and everything. We'll see. I'm skeptical, but we'll see how it goes. In the rest of the roadmap, they had they're making vehicle sounds better. They're adding a new gun. I think it was the fall, but I don't remember. What else are they doing? Oh, they're adding limb and vehicle penetration. They're tweaking a little bit, which is interesting. The more technical the more technical changes they make, the more interested I am. I'm not so much interested in like the cosmetic stuff and all that and the emotes and all that shit, but the bullet penetration stuff is really interesting to me. And the funniest one on there was that they're changing parachutes. They're going to tweak parachutes to make them perform better, as well as, I think there was something like a visual change to the parachutes. I hope that means that I will no longer be parachuting down, get caught on the edge of a building, and hang there for a minute, only to release and lose half my health. That is the most ridiculous shit ever. That's happened to me several times. If you go to the YouTube channel, Mosh Gaming on YouTube, you'll see a clip of me getting stuck in the middle of nowhere, just like, okay, like a minute and a half of me hanging there, and then I finally let go and smash myself into a building for like half my health. It's terrible. So hopefully they're fixing that. Either way, I'm glad to see that PUBG finally came out with a roadmap. Players have been asking that forever. They've been delaying. I'm not sure where they are with a new map. I hope it's coming. We heard snow, so everyone's excited about snow. Yeah, so hopefully that means good things in the future. Last time on the show, I mentioned the Showdown tournament that my squad and I are thinking about joining. We're still in the process of that. The guy who kind of came up with the idea has been on vacation for a couple weeks. I'm trying to get a hold of him and see what he's thinking about doing. But as far as I know, it's still on. The next time Showdown comes up, or what's the other one? Contender or something like that. Challenger. There's a couple of different tournaments. Either way, we'll be entering that, and hopefully we'll see how that goes. I know you're not allowed to stream them directly from your machine, but obviously this channel will host the tournament that we're involved in. They're the main tournament channel, so you'll be able to check us out there. Anyways, happy to see the roadmap. Keep it up. I am looking forward to playing more PUBG. Oh, custom games. I forgot that one. So they also added a small snippet about custom games at the bottom. People have been asking about it because very famous streamers, not like this channel, but people like the Doc and Shroud and probably Ninja and a couple of these guys, they have access to private servers on PUBG. Sometimes it makes sense because they have a large following and they want to kind of promote the game a little more. But players have been salty about it because they don't have access to custom servers. So, you know, sometimes if you have a group of friends or you want to play just a LAN or something like that, it'd be more interesting if you could just pare it down and have your own map, you know, instead of playing with a bunch of random people. That's apparently coming. They didn't say how available it's going to be. They said they're going to open it up to more players. Not sure what that means, like top 100 or what, or everyone. I guess we can only wait and see, but it could be interesting. Next up, we had a little bit of Slay the Spire news. So, for the last couple weeks, I have been struggling to get into the daily climb, and I finally made it. I'm just going to touch on this real quick. The daily climb is fun. I talked about it a little bit last week with our guest, John, who was on the show, and the whole idea with the daily climb is that every day you get a new set of parameters to go up the ladder through the 3 acts, and they add a little bit of tweaks. They add, like, maybe the merchant costs more. You can't see the nodes. They're all question marks. Maybe you get 2 cards in the opposite class. Maybe you start with an extra relic. Something like that. There's like a little bit of bonus and a little bit of negative. And I think one of the ones I played last week was you don't heal at all after the boss fights. It makes it a little tougher. It makes it like a cooler gameplay. I liked it for sure. That being said, if I don't beat it all the way through to Act 3, I'm going to want to play it again, right? The map doesn't change, at least not that I noticed, so the layout's still the same, every node's still the same, and every card choice is still the same. I don't know if I like that. And by every card choice, I mean that after I beat a battle, because there was one last time I was playing where you only got to pick from 2 cards after the battle. So I'd pop up the 2 cards, but every like 4th node would be the same 2 cards. Every 5th node would be the same 2 cards. The relics would be the same. So there's no reason to play it more than once, which I kind of didn't like that. I get it that it's a daily mode, and it's like they want everyone competing against the same parameters. They don't want to switch it up so that one is easier and you get a better time and all that stuff. I get that. But if you don't beat it on your first try, I feel like you're not doing it again. I don't actually know how to fix it. I'm not a game developer. That's probably good. But I feel like there's a way they can make it more interesting. We'll see where that goes. In more exciting news, this week I did beat Ascension 5, finally. This has been a couple weeks of me banging my head against the wall trying to beat it. I finally got the dog guy at the end. I forget his name. Not Time Eater, not Decca and Donna. It's... how's that guy's name? It's the dog that comes back to life and gets the spikes. I finally beat him. I made a deck without powers. Believe it or not, after seeing that every time you play a power, he gets a bunch of strength. What I didn't realize until this time when I beat it was that he only gains the strength if you cast the power before he dies. Once he dies, he does not have that buff that says gain strength when the opponent plays a power. So if you just save your powers and, push him down 300 health without dying in the first act, you can play all your powers in the second half of the fight. I did not realize that until this time. Previously, I'd be like scared to play any powers the entire time and I would end up dying. It's much easier if you realize how the boss works. Now I'm on Ascension 6. I beat Ascension 5 and then haven't gone back to the game because another game came up, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I'm very happy to have beaten that. There's a clip of me like celebrating on the stream from that. We got to get the Star Wars news. This has been my kind of main game during the day. We've had a lot of people in and out of the chat talking about Star Wars. I got to mention some things about it. Sith Raid came out last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I don't even remember. I've mentioned it a few times. Sith Raid is fun. It is also very, very hard. Very hard. Harder than it probably should be. I know that some very famous YouTubers for this game have released videos talking about it, saying, yeah, this is way overtuned. You guys need to take it down a notch. We're talking about guilds not being able to clear it on like tier 3, tier 4, the heroic tier, I guess, is super duper hard. Unless you do a couple of things. One of them was an exploit with Stormtrooper Han. There was an exploit with him which I don't really understand because I don't play Rebels because they're scum. But people were able to like do infinite turns with him in some way. I don't know. That's getting nerfed. The other team where people could actually do damage was a Jedi Raid team. You can see it right there. So And by the way, I say Jedi Rey, meaning that the picture is a Jedi. In the movie The Last Jedi, she was probably a Jedi. In the game, she's not a goddamn Jedi. I don't know why. She's still a Resistance fighter. I don't know why they didn't archetype Tiger two Jedis. It has been irritating to see that. Thank you for the cheers, buddy. I love you. So this raid is hard as hell. There's only one team that's really viable to do any kind of damage, and that's the Jedi, the Rey Jedi in Training character. Her lead with like BB-8, R2, Rey Scavenger, and then like one other person. Some people are using Hermit Yoda. Some people are using Resistance Trooper. I personally use Jawa Engineer. There's a lot of different combos. So Capital Games, the creators of this game, along with EA, came out and said, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to have to nerf Rey. They didn't explicitly say that. What they came out and said was, you know what? Expose is doing too much damage. If you don't know the game, Expose is a debuff you can put on an enemy, and then when you hit that enemy, you do some X amount more damage from the Expose. When you beat the fight with a Rey Jedi in Training team, you'll notice that the total damage at the end does not add up to the damage each one of your characters did. That's because the majority of the damage is coming from Expose. When I first did it, I thought, holy shit, that's a lot of Expose damage. You can see it on the hit. If you slow it down to 1 times when you're fighting that character, or when you're fighting Nihilus or whoever you're fighting, when you hit them, you can see a yellow for the crit or whatever, and then you can see a white number pop up afterwards, which is the Exposed damage. That exposed damage was like, I'd crit for 18k, the exposed damage would be like 47k or something like that. It seemed like a lot while we were doing it. I wasn't going to say anything. Now CG is saying, we're not going to have that. We're nerfing exposed for all raids, is what they said. Which probably pissed a lot of people off. I did watch the video where Arnold was talking about. Arnold is one of the big streamers of this game. Not streamers, maybe YouTubers. I don't know if he Twitch streams. Where he was talking about this and how maybe that's a developer problem. Maybe they didn't test the raid enough to realize that Exposed would do all this, and now they're nerfing kind of the only viable team. So the problem is that, let's say that my Jedi team in Phase 1 on Darth Nihilus can do 6 million damage. My team actually can't do that because I don't really like Jedi Rey and I don't really like R2. So my team does like 3 or 4 million. I have a cousin who plays the game. He does 6 or 7 million. His Jedi Rey team is very good. So let's say my team does 6 million. My second best team, which is an Imperial Trooper team, you go to my third best team, which is maybe a First Order team, fourth best team, Sith team. None of those guys can do over 1.5 million. So we're talking about 1/4, 1/3 of the damage of this Jedi Rey team any one single other team can do. And they're nerfing the Jedi Rey team. This is going to make the raid way harder. So I think they're going to need to scale back what they're thinking. If they're going to nerf this team, they're going to need to say, hey, we need to make some more teams viable in this because this is ridiculous. It's way too hard. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. Hopefully they make the Sith team a little better since I have... okay, hopefully that worked. Since I have Darth Sion now, who's actually really good at this raid, by the way. Hopefully they make Vader okay. The problem with the very first part of the fight is that Nihilus has this crazy tenacity where you can't put any debuffs on him. Well, there's a lot of teams that rely on the mechanic of debuffing the opponent. So if you make it so you release a raid and say, oh yeah, you can't debuff him, you've eliminated half the teams that can fight him. So now we have the Jedi Rey team, which can put an expose on the guy. For some reason, it's unresistible. I don't know why they did that, but they did. She's the only one that can put a debuff on him. So, of course, everyone's playing this team because it's the only way to beat the guy. So you're going to nerf her instead of figuring out, like, oh, hey, maybe we screwed up the design of that fight, you know? So we'll see what they do. For now, I think they're making a poor decision on on how to fix the issue. We'll see, though. That is supposed to be coming. I'm not sure when. Next couple of weeks, something like that. I'm sorry that my phone is ringing right now. Hopefully soon. I want my Sith team to do better. I want my Bounty Hunter team to do better. Let me get the Bounty Hunter buff now. Bounty Hunter rework. Let's go. Let me get Boba Fett working. I'll leave Jedi Ray in the dust. I'll delete her off my team. I don't really like her at all. Alright. 2 more notes. I'm going to get to Jessica Jones the minute I mentioned it last week. We're going to talk about it, and I will warn you before I do spoilers for it. The NFL is going crazy right now. If you're an NFL fan, you have been probably losing your mind. If you are a fan of the Cleveland Browns, you have been losing your mind the last couple days. Free agency started today, I think, at noon. Maybe it's next week. I don't remember. Either way, there's been a lot of trades. Most notably, if you follow this channel, if you know me personally, or if you follow the channel, you know I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. During the NFL season, I'm always wearing Bills gear on the show. That will continue. It's all over my Instagram, which you can see at the bottom and bottom of the panels and up top of the screen. I go to Bills games every year. Been a Bills fan my whole life. The Bills traded their quarterback to the Cleveland Browns. You can see that guy in the picture. Tyrod Taylor in that Cleveland Browns jersey. Now, that's a move I'm happy about. Most teams would not be happy about losing their starting quarterback. However, I have not been a fan of Tyrod Taylor for the last 2 years. He's an okay quarterback. Okay, he is a safe quarterback. I think he's got the lowest interception percentage in the NFL probably. And people go crazy about that. I saw on the NFL subreddit today, Tyrod Taylor, you know, he's one of the only 3 quarterbacks in the NFL that has 1,000 passes with only 3 interceptions, something like that. Yeah, he is. And the other 2 are Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Okay? Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Tyrod Taylor. Those people in that group. Let's also look at the stat that says, what's the average completed pass yardage? Because I guarantee Tyrod Taylor is probably like 4 yards, 5 yards. We're talking about a quarterback that throws 90% of his passes under 5 yards, and when it's like 3rd and 9, we're throwing for 6. Every freaking time. Every year for the last 2 years. Like, it sucks to say it because we went to the playoffs this year. We broke the playoff drought this year. The longest playoff drought in professional sports history was broken this year. Buffalo Bills, 17 years, broken this year. Quarterback Tyrod Taylor. So he can't be that bad. He's not that bad. But he's not like a franchise guy. He's not a regular quarterback. He's not a guy that's going to throw passes down the field. He's just not. When he does, he's throwing them out of bounds. He's overthrowing them. He's throwing interceptions. His best pass is to a flat pass to the running back or a tight end cutting, 5 yards short of the first down. That's his best passes. He's a safe pick. He might be exactly what the Browns need. He's the opposite of what the Bills need. So even though we have a backup quarterback that when he started his first game, he threw 5 interceptions. 5. Record breaking for the NFL. Guy came into the game, 5 interceptions. Even that guy, I would say, I'll have that guy. Why? He came out his second time, did just fine. Came out, first play, he came back. This is after throwing 5 interceptions, getting embarrassed on national TV. First start, worst start of all time. Came out his second start, threw 20-yard pass. Not afraid of criticism, not afraid of throwing interceptions, just thinking that was a bad game, let's get that out of the way, let's start throwing passes. This guy is looking down the field, he's looking at different spots, going through his reads. That's a quarterback. This is coming from a fan who I hate when people go, oh, this guy needs to look at these different things and he needs to be aware of a pass rush. Like, I'm not a Monday morning quarterback, even though it's Monday evening right now, and I'm kind of doing that. This guy, Nate Peterman, is not the best. He's not a franchise guy. He is fine. Okay, he's not Satan. I am happier with him, not in the starting role. I'm okay with him in the backup role. I'm happier with him there than I am with Tyrod starting, to be honest. So now that he's gone, what does that mean for the Buffalo Bills? There's a lot of things going on. I wish we were in the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. I don't think we are. I think there's like 4 teams left. I hope it's not the Jets because they're in our division. I would love to pay him that money and get Kirk. I would be so excited. But that's not going to happen. What we're going to probably do is we're going to trade up because we got a really sick draft. We got a 3rd-round draft pick for Tyrod Taylor. That's crazy. We're going to probably trade up, and we're probably going to take one of the top guys, which is fine with me, a top rookie. Does that mean we start him? Are we going to pick up a veteran? This is the week. This is free agency. We'll see what happens. We just traded Cordy Glenn today, and a lineman. There's a lot of stuff that could happen. The only thing that I do not want to happen, I don't want to see a single one of our secondary players go, because we had like the top secondary in the league last year. I do not want to see LaShawn McCoy go. If either of those pieces go, we're going to be talking about this again next Monday. So, yeah, draft's coming up. Free agency's up. We're going to see a lot more moves this week. I'm sure the Browns are going to make more moves, so that'll be interesting. One thing I saw was Sherman signed to the Niners, Richard Sherman from the Seahawks. And an interesting thing I heard was he doesn't have an agent, which I thought was interesting. So he's kind of known as an intellectual guy. I'm not sure if he runs the Players Tribune, the website, but I know that he is like a main contributor to it. I think he runs it or started it. But he's like a Stanford grad or something like that. Not that schools necessarily mean that you're smart for one reason or another. There's people that graduate high school or don't graduate high school that are geniuses. But he's a plenty smart guy, and he does not have an agent. He reps himself in meetings and stuff. So people were giving him crap for the deal that he signed, and there's a lot of stuff going on like that, kind of making fun of him. This is why players need agents and all that stuff. So agents take 3% of the contract of the player. So, I mean, the way I see it, like if you're an NFL player and you think you can do a fine job yourself, a fine job, I'm not saying above average job, and I'm not saying that because, agents rep a lot of players. They can't be dedicated to just one player the whole time. That's just not how the business can possibly work. So they can't be 100% dedicated to you. However, if you were repping yourself, you are 100% dedicated to yourself. So you save the 3%, paying someone else who's not fully dedicated to you. Meanwhile, you can spend all your time just focusing on yourself. So anyways, he did pretty well for himself, I think. There's been some analysts that looked at his deal thinking some of them are saying it's not great. There's a lot of playtime incentive stuff on there. I don't know much about, I'm not a contract guy. I don't follow guaranteed money, all that shit. But either way, I mean, good for him, basically. I know there was one other guy that posted a big thing on Twitter to Sherm saying, good for you, and people need to shut up and don't worry about agents because they're just half-assing it. I think in some cases that might be true, not all cases. But either way, it'll be interesting to see how Sherman does this year with the Niners, who are a scary team this year. I would be scared if I was in that division. Garoppolo, he's scary and beautiful. I'm going to talk for a minute briefly about Jessica Jones. I have a friend who is a co-streamer. I don't know if he's in the channel or not, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to wave my hand right now saying that everything I say from now on could be a spoiler. If you have not seen Jessica Jones Season 2, mute the audio right now. When you see me wave hands again, that is when you can come back to the stream. That will no longer be spoilers. This is the hand waving to turn it off now. I finished Jessica Jones Season 2 in one day. I watched all the episodes all the way through. It was fine. Obviously, I talked last week about how excited I was for Jessica Jones. In the rank of Marvel shows, Jessica Jones Season 1, Punisher close, all the rest of the garbage way down here someplace. Iron Fist down through this floor. I wrote a huge write-up on the Jessica Jones subreddit, and there's been a ton of comments to it, people arguing back and forth. The crux of the matter is this. Jessica Jones as a character is fine. I like the fact that she's kind of this disturbed character who's like kind of an alcoholic and struggling with the fact that she is maybe a superhero and doesn't like the hero part of it, but kind of likes the powers sometimes. Uses them for private eye stuff, which is great. I like her character in general, like a torn superhero character. It's way more interesting than someone like Cap, who is just kind of good all the time, you know. That being said, season 1 of Jessica Jones, if you ask anyone what their favorite part about season 1 of Jessica Jones is, what would they say? Kilgrave, right? The boss, the villain. I keep saying the boss, but that's a video game term. The villain of the show. He was freaking amazing. Now, you could say that's because of the actor, because he is a fantastic actor. You could say it was the writing, the role, whatever. But the interaction between Jessica Jones and David Tennant was so good. The dichotomy and how they were interacting, you know, he was kind of mind controlling her, and wasn't he? And now she's overpowering him. It's a really interesting show that I talked about it last week. The episode in the middle of that season when all of a sudden he was doing good things, when he went to save that family. The guy was going to kill himself with a shotgun, or the guy was holding his family hostage with a shotgun or something, and Kilgrave basically mind tricked him into just walking outside instead of killing anyone. And he sort of was like, wow, the saving people thing is really cool. Like, we could do this. Me and Jessica Jones, we could be heroes. And then she betrays him at the end of the episode, right? So you think, like, maybe she's going to convince him to go good, and then all of a sudden she, like, drugs him and then tries to get him arrested or killed or whatever. And then the next episode, he's like, what the fuck? I thought we were going to do good things. Now I'm going to be evil again. Such a cool episode. So that was my favorite episode of the whole season. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, he has a chance. Now we're flipping back. Now he's bad again. This season had none of that. None. For the first 5 episodes, I spent thinking, okay, what exactly is the conflict here? There was no conflict. Malcolm was very cool. He's a sober Malcolm. He's a part of the show. He's on the PI team. He's an awesome character. Patsy was okay. They tried to play into her addiction thing again, which was, I mean, it was fine. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was fine. Hogarth was really cool. She gets afflicted with this disease, and she kind of, you see her sort of go through this transformation where she's taking this like hedonism route where she's kind of indulging, and you know, she has a bunch of prostitutes over, and then she's giving money away and buying things for people. It's like this weird sort of transition of her character from doing good, which she was pretty much good in the first season, to now she's, you know, struggling with this idea where she's gonna die and she can't reverse it. And then all of a sudden she gets some hope. Maybe now we can reverse it. Maybe there's a healer. Maybe there's this. And then at the end of this season, you could see her start to, she sort of gives you the impression that she might be starting like a bad guy group. I don't know how else to explain that. Like an evil villain is what she's turning into, I think. She sort of talks about how she's going to do some things that Jessica doesn't need to know. Kind of because she thinks Jessica's going to try and stop her. She would be a cool character. Sort of like the Lex Luthor, where Lex, you know, doesn't have superpowers, but he's kind of smart and rich, and he not necessarily evil, but does stuff kind of just what he wants to do. You know what I mean? That seems like what Hogarth is to me. She was the coolest part of this whole season, for sure. The worst goddamn part of this whole season was when the villain actually appeared. The villain turns out to be her goddamn mom, Jessica Jones' mom. So she's another powered person, and she was a part of the IGH that experimented on Jessica Jones, which is how she got superpowers. They did the same thing with her mom. Her mom survived. Her mom is this person with a terrible wig, and she has superpowers, and it's just like, it's so bad. It's so bad. I can't. It makes me want to cry just thinking about it. This whole goddamn season, they talk about how powerful she is. She's, you know, she's going to wipe out the Eastern Seaboard. There's one episode where they literally say, oh, she's going to get mad and kill all these people. No one can stop her. We can send the National Guard. Hundreds of people are going to die. Hundreds of people. Hundreds? Did they forget that, like, that bullets exist? I'm sorry. The end of the whole season, she gets killed. by a single bullet. She's just dead. That's it. Halfway through the season, she gets shot in the leg. Barely walk. Pretty much useless. Just shot in the leg. The entire Eastern Seaboard? We talk about the Hulk? I mean, that's what they made her out to be. They made her out to be like it was Thor and the Hulk combined. She's going to destroy everything. Like, that person was not. Like, they tried to talk her up and then showed none of these abilities. And none of the characters reacted to her like that. Like, they just talked about it. It was such a weird, a terrible villain. Terrible. And I was arguing with a guy on Reddit about whether or not that was a villain or not, and that Jessica Jones's struggle with her family issues versus a superhero and all this stuff was actually the real villain of the show. It doesn't matter. The people in this show thought that Jessica Jones' mom was this great villain, and it was the worst possible shit ever. Magnified 100 times by the fact that it wasn't Kilgrave. They went from having the best villain ever in a TV Marvel show to the fucking worst. It was such awful garbage. The one good part of the whole season, I was on episode 9 thinking, Jesus Christ, I'm going to have to stop watching this show. It was bad. It was freaking bad. I got to episode 11. I think it was 11. All of a sudden, Kilgrave pops up again. What the fuck? Kilgrave? So now he's in Jessica Jones's head. And it comes up where she's like thinking about maybe she's got to kill someone or not. And now Kilgrave has manifested himself. And he's in the show as sort of this like apparition and supposed to represent her conscious talking to her as she's trying to make these decisions about what to do with her mom, about what to do with this guy who's kind of torturing her mom. So he pops up and acts as kind of the evil, the devil conscious version that sits on his shoulder like in like old cartoons. And it is the best freaking episode of the whole series, of the whole season. Just his interaction with Jessica is amazing. You know what I'm talking about. Season 1, it was like the villain would interact with the main character, but in kind of like an almost joking yet, what's the word I want to say? A joking yet villainous type of manner. Like he'd be talking about really terrible shit, but kind of in a funny way. I think that was just David Tennant's twist on Kilgrave. Either way, it was so interesting, and he came back, and it was more interesting. It was amazing. Guess what? End of episode 11, gone. Never see him again. David Tennant shows up for one episode. It's the best episode of the season. Then he's gone, and then there's 3 more episodes of garbage. It was the most disappointing thing ever, especially since once you see it and realize like what they could do with this other personality that's sort of worm-tonguing Jessica Jones the whole time, this evil person, you start to think like, why didn't they do this the whole season? Why didn't they have it like episode 1 was David Tennant talking, kill this person, you should do this, forget your mom, you don't need her, into her ear the entire time. Would have been so cool. It would have been so cool. The season would have been 100 times better. Oh my God. They dropped the ball on this season. They dropped it, and I'm pissed about it. Jessica Jones season 1, Punisher, Luke Cage, maybe Daredevil, Defenders, Iron Fist. No. Jessica Jones season 2, Defenders, Iron Fist. Jessica Jones season 2 was that bad. Fucking Christ. I'm still salty about it. Okay, waving my hands again. Time to turn back on the audio. We're going to wrap up the show now. Spoilers are over. No more talking about it. Okay? What are we playing this week? I've been playing a couple new games. Vermintide is one. So, Warhammer Vermintide 2 came out last week or the week before. A bunch of my friends playing it. For whatever reason, I thought it was an RTS. It is not. I think I mentioned this last week on the show. I was playing it this week. It is really fun. I think it's pretty much purely co-op game, but it's awesome. I plan on doing that more. Possibly tonight. We'll see who's online. PUBG Showdown tournament, hopefully still coming. Got to talk to Joey, see what the team's doing. I'm hoping PUBG this week, and Star Wars, Galaxy of Heroes, more on the stream this week. As I said, morning streams are a thing of the past now that I got the new job. They may resurface as the channel builds momentum. We'll see what happens. But for now, hiatus for the mornings. It's possible that I pop up once in a while in the afternoon when I get work kind of locked down, but morning time is going to be a no-go. So look for those games coming up. Look for probably some more talk about Star Wars once those nerfs for Jedi Ray hits. I'll probably be streaming that and talking about it some more. I mentioned the overlays. Look forward to the new newsroom / PTI style channel. I am hoping that is coming next week. I'm still working with the artist. We will get it figured out. It will be on this channel. It will be awesome. If you, as usual, feedback welcome in the chat, in the message, on any of the social media things, top and bottom of this. Follow the channel if you like it. We do this show every single Monday. There's always going to be new segments. I cannot wait for the PTI segment. Last week we had a guest. This week we do not, mostly because the new job started. I didn't have enough time to prep. Next week, guest. Planning on having a guest. It will, I'm hoping it's going to be a certain author. We'll see. If not, we may get another streaming personality on the show. So stay tuned for that. We'll see how it goes. I will announce pretty much everything beforehand on the Twitch status. I'm not sure what to call that. Twitch news feed, Twitch dashboard, Twitch channel status, whatever. There, all the social media stuff at the top, smoke signals. Either way, give me a few minutes, probably like 3. We're going to be over in the game studio playing some games. I'm thinking we're going to start with Vermintide, possibly PUBG. We'll see what happens. Stay tuned. Thanks for hanging out. I will be right back.